Welcome back to Thesis of the World. Before we get into this hot button topic, go ahead and smash that like icon. This video needs to have the algo go dizzy from spinning in out to viewers through the metaverse. So pull up and park and let's talk about it.
Hey, man, I will have to postpone the fishing trip. I need to be a part of this democracy. So I decided to go to register to vote.
No problem. It's supposed to be raining on my end around that time. Do you have all the documents to register?
Yeah, my driver's license.
Now, you will need more than your driver's license. It's really complicated now.
Really? Do you have a list of what I would need?
I do actually, for others to use as a reference. I will send you the link shortly.
Serious grown man in the studio, giving you my thesis, not the trends. That's my lane, and I'm driving in it. No shortcuts, just necessary stops along the way. Listen while you drive, and when you hit that red light, smash like and subscribe. If you get lost in the hustle and bustle of your day, lock back into Thesis of the World as you wind down your night. Welcome back to Thesis of the World. Let's get into it.
Imagine heading to register to vote only to find out your driver's license isn't enough anymore. Today, we're deep diving into the SAVE Act, a high-stakes federal bill that would require every American to provide show your papers documentation, like a passport or birth certificate, just to get on the voter rolls. With critics warning this could block over 21 million eligible citizens from the ballot box and supporters calling it a common-sense shield for election integrity, we're unpacking the controversy that has the entire country talking. Is this about securing the vote or creating a massive new barrier for millions of Americans? Seismic is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but this feels like it fits. This is a rewrite of the rulebook. We are talking, of course, about what happened a few days ago on the floor of the House. By a razor-thin margin, 220 to 208, the House passed H.R. 7296, which is also known as the Save America Act. Now, before anyone panics or, celebrates, depending on your view, I have to do a quick PSA, because I was looking at search trends, and if you type Save Act into a search engine right now, it's a mess. Congress loves that acronym. There's a Save Act for nurses in North Carolina, another one for, retirement savings. So just to be crystal clear, I am not talking about your 401k. I'm not talking about nursing. I'm only talking about the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. And the mission that J. Rod has given me today is really to unpack how this 20-page document fundamentally changes how Americans interact with the ballot box. It feels like the biggest proposed change since the early 90s. When you put it all together, you see this fundamental clash, a clash between two ideas of what an election should even look like. On one side, you have this philosophy of access, make it as easy as possible for every eligible person. On the other, absolute verification, make it harder if it guarantees zero ineligible votes. The battle of front end versus back end. That's it. That's the technical term for it. We currently live in a back end world. You sign an oath, the government can check later. This bill flips that entirely. It says, show me your papers before you even get on the list. Let's get into those weeds, because the details here are incredibly specific. Section 1 is all about something called DPOC, Documentary Proof of Citizenship. This is the engine of the whole thing. To really get why it's a big deal, I'll paint you a picture of how it works right now. Or, I guess how it worked yesterday. Since 1993, we've had the National Voter Registration Act, the NVRA, the Motor Voter Law, and the whole point was to make it easy. You go to the DMV, which in itself is horrendous, I think, in just about every state. But in any way, they hand you a form, you check a box that says, I am a U.S. citizen, and you sign your name. And that signature is everything. It's a legal attestation. You're swearing under penalty of perjury. If you lie, you're looking at prison time, fines, and for a non-citizen, deportation. It's an honor system with, very sharp teeth. So the argument from Speaker Mike Johnson and the bill's sponsors is basically an oath is not enough.
House Republicans tonight stood with the overwhelming majority of Americans who demand secure elections. By voting for the Save America Act, House Republicans did exactly what the American people sent us here to do. It's promises made, promises kept. Ensuring the integrity of elections is an essential issue. It's essential to maintaining our constitutional republic, and everybody in this country seems to understand and agree to that. This is about a 90-10 issue in the polling, because all that we've done tonight in this simple piece of legislation is apply common sense. And the second part of it, what we added tonight and what is part of the Save America Act is the second piece, the very common sense requirement that you have a photo ID if you're going to vote. So that's it. That's what the bill does. Proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote.
They argue a non-citizen might check that box by mistake or maliciously, and they get on the voter rolls. So the SAVE Act just amends that old law and says, no more honor system. A state shall not accept an application without physical proof right then and there. Okay, so let's play this out. You are at the DMV counter. You want to register to vote. You pull out your valid driver's license, thinking you are good to go. Not anymore. That's the first misconception. Under this bill, a standard driver's license is not valid proof of citizenship, even though your driver's license is enough for most everything. We all pull it out on a regular basis. To get on a plane, financial institution, to buy that adult beverage, the carton of cigs, or the round plastic can we have in our back or front pocket that over time leaves that perfect discolored white ring. We use it to prove your identity, that you are who you say you are, and at the prescribed age. But a driver's license doesn't prove your citizenship. Millions of legal residents, green card holders, work visa holders have valid licenses, but they can't vote. Let me say that again. They can't vote. So logically, the bill says, nope, not good enough. Not good enough. Then there was the big massive campaign ads, billboard sign, you name it, push for the real ID. Like everyone rushed to get in fear, like half a day at the DMV getting that little gold star on their license. Surely that's the one. You'd think so. But the Bipartisan Policy Center analysis points out this really crucial detail. Even a real ID can be issued to certain non-citizens with legal status. So just having the star doesn't automatically mean citizen. So even my gold star license gets rejected. Unless, and this is a really big, unless your state DMV issues a specific type of real ID that actually has a marker on it that says US citizen. If your state doesn't do that, your real ID is useless for this. That is a massive distinction. I think most people assume their license is the golden ticket for everything. It's not. So now you're at the counter. Your license is no good. The DMV official looking at you intensely and slightly exasperated because—
Sir, don't get snippy with me.
Well, I've been here all morning.
That is not my prerogative, sir.
I wait in one line, they send me to another line,
You know
they
what?
send me
You
back.
can always call to make an
I try
appointment.
to call. I can't get through. The line's always busy. It's ridiculous.
Go wait in the appointment line, then.
I don't want to wait.
Sir,
I've got a job. I don't have all day. I can't say this.
You're going to have to take that somewhere else.
Hard.
All right, you know what? I'm on break.
because you are only the 400 customer today doing the same thing. And he asked, what else you got? While you are digging through your wallet or purse, starting to sweat a little bit, because you called in sick to hang out a few days ago, so you are burning your last 3 hours of sick time, hoping no one from your job had to come to DMV the same day. He asked, do you have your passport on you? And here is when you get a little ticked and reply, who carries a passport around with them? And not everyone has a passport. I know my meemaw never had one. If you have a valid US passport, it's usually in a safe at home. So, what do you need? A military ID works, but only if you also have a service record showing a US place of birth. Are we tracking? So even a military ID needs a backup document. It is just that strict, extremely. And if you don't have those, then you get to what I'm calling the combo platter option. You need your photo ID plus a secondary document. And on the menu for secondary documents, a certified birth certificate, a consular report of birth abroad, or a naturalization certificate. So we're talking about me, a grown adult, having to bring your birth certificate to the DMV. What about those who were delivered by midwives back in the day? Some of us have gotten so comfortable with the digital era, we are forgetting about a segment of the population that all they have is a tattered old Bible with faded ink with the date of birth. No photocopies, no picture on your phone. A certified handheld piece of paper that they can see, touch, hold, inspect with the seal. The bill is very clear. It has to be the certified version with the raised seal, the registrar's signature, the whole 9 yards. So not the cute one your grandma had with your little baby footprints on it. The footprint certificate is a lovely keepsake, but it won't get you registered to vote. You bring that, you're getting turned away. This just feels like adding a huge amount of friction to the process. But I think that's the point. And that brings me to the back end of the bill, because Section 1 is about keeping people out. Section 2 is about kicking people off the rolls.
What?
It's about maintenance, purges. The bill mandates that every state has to use the DHS SVE system to scrub their voter rolls. We've got a SAVE E inside the SAVE E, a nested acronym. It's Washington, so the database is called Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements. It was built to check if someone was eligible for, say, Medicaid or food stamps, so it's not built for elections. And that's a huge point of contention. The bill says you have to run your voter lists against this database. And if it flags someone as a non-citizen, you have to start the removal process. On paper, that sounds logical, but I know these databases can be a mess, a huge mess. Half of my life I have worked with databases, and naturalized citizens are the ones who will get caught in the gears. You became a citizen last year. The database might not be updated yet. It could still show you as a permanent resident. And boom! You get a letter saying you're about to be purged from the voter roll, and the bill says these checks have to happen. How often? Monthly. Monthly. It creates a continuous cycle of purges. There's a phrase in here that really jumped out at me: private right of action. If that sounds like we're about to see a lot of lawsuits, that's exactly what it means. It's the enforcement. The bill allows any private citizen to sue an election official if they think that the official registered someone without the correct proof.
This is wrong, okay? This is wrong.
Let's unpack that. If you're a town clerk and accept a document that looks real to you, but someone in town disagrees, you can get sued. That will be a civil matter. But it doesn't stop there. There are also criminal penalties. We're talking about fines and up to 5 years in prison for an official who registers someone who turns out to be ineligible. Okay, so put yourself in the shoes of that town clerk. You're making, what, $45,000 a year? And even less in a small town where you're wearing various hats. Are you going to risk prison because someone's paperwork is a little bit confusing? No way. If there is any doubt in your mind, the answer is no. The analysis from Democracy Docket suggests this creates a climate of extreme risk aversion. The default answer becomes reject, because rejecting a valid voter gets you yelled at. Accepting an invalid one could get you a felony charge.
Are you kidding me?
Are we tracking yet? So that's the what and the how. Let's talk about the why. Speaker Johnson was celebrating a few days ago. The vote was straight party line, with one crossover from the Democratic Party. The Republican argument is election integrity. The argument is why take the risk. Even if non-citizen voting is rare, the only acceptable number is 0. Not checking papers is like leaving your front door unlocked. And as a concept, I get that. It resonates. But the pushback isn't let non-citizens vote. It's about the cost benefit here. It's all about the collateral damage. And I actually have data. This isn't just a hypothetical debate. So how big is this problem, really? Well, let's look at Utah. They did a massive audit, reviewed over 2 million registered voters, specifically looking for non-citizens. They found exactly one out of 2 million. Did that person vote? No, they were on the roll, but they never cast a ballot. Probably a paperwork error. I checked on a bigger state, Georgia. Georgia audited 8.2 million voters. They found 24 non-citizens. Again, a statistically microscopic number. So we're talking about numbers that are basically statistical noise. And the Bipartisan Policy Center notes that usually these aren't conspiracies. It's an administrative error. And remember, voting as a non-citizen is a felony that gets you deported. It's an incredibly high-risk, low-reward crime. So the integrity argument is using a sledgehammer to crack a very, very small nut. Which brings me to the Kansas experiment. This is the most important case study I have on this. A few years ago, Kansas passed a law almost identical to the SAVE Act. They required documentary proof of citizenship. And what happened? Chaos. The BPC report is clear. The law blocked roughly 31,000 eligible American citizens from being able to register to vote. 31,000. That was about 12% of all the people who tried to register during that time. So let's just do that math to catch maybe a handful of non-citizens. They disenfranchised 31,000 of their own citizens. That is the core tension of this entire debate. Opponents say this is like burning down the barn to find a mouse. And who are these 31,000 people? I think the assumption is that everyone has these documents lying around. But the data says that's not true. The Brennan Center numbers on this are staggering. They estimate that over 21 million American citizens don't have ready access to proof of citizenship documents. 21 million. That seems unbelievably high. Well, think about it. 52% of registered voters don't have an unexpired passport. If you don't travel internationally, would you pay $165 for one? No. And it hits certain groups much harder. 2/3 of Black Americans don't have a passport. Low-income voters, rural voters, elderly people born at home who maybe never got a formal birth certificate, they're the ones who get caught. There's also a very specific groups that I hadn't thought about until I read the report. 1. The so-called marriage penalty. Oh, and this is a logistical nightmare, and it's going to affect millions of women. See, the Republican Party will only state the provisions, obviously, that everyone agrees with, but you will not hear them talk about this one. Say your name is Jane Doe on your birth certificate. You get married, you change your name to Jane Smith. Your driver's license says Jane Smith. Standard stuff. Right. Happens all the time. You go to the DMV, you hand them your license that says Jane Smith and your birth certificate that says Jane Doe. The official looks at them and says, "These names don't match. You haven't proven that Jane Smith is a citizen, so I need something else." A bridge document. That bridge is your marriage certificate. So now you have to go dig that out of a box somewhere or contact the clerk of courts in the state for which it occurred. But what if you've been divorced and remarried? You literally have to provide the entire paper trail of your name changes. You might need a birth certificate, your first marriage license, your divorce decree, and your second marriage license just to register to vote. I can just picture people turning around and walking right out of the line. And that's what happens. It's called administrative burden. It's not a law that says you can't vote. It's a process that makes voting so complicated and expensive that people just give up. I saw there was some talk about a manager's amendment to try and fix this with an affidavit, but that just adds another layer. You sign a form explaining the name change, but then the election official has to decide if your story is credible. And if they guess wrong, they face a lawsuit. So are they going to take your word for it? Maybe, maybe not. Let's talk about the timeline. It's 2026. It's an election year. Primaries are happening. If this gets through the Senate, when does it take effect? The bill says, and I'm quoting, effective immediately upon enactment. Immediately. Overnight. Yep. This will be an administrative chaos. Election officials would have to completely overhaul their systems in the middle of an election cycle. And if you're guessing the bill doesn't provide any money for them to hire staff or buy new equipment to handle all this, at least the government could have asked,
Do you need some money?
for startup cost at least. It's an unfunded mandate. Your local county has to figure it out on their own dime. The other consideration, what does this do to mail-in registration or just registering online? It cripples it. The bill says you have to present your proof in person to an election official, so you can fill out the form online, but you're not actually registered until you physically go somewhere. Your application is incomplete until you show up with your papers. The only way around it is if a state builds some kind of complex secure portal for uploading documents, which is, expensive and takes years. That basically kills voter registration drives on college campuses completely. Think about it. Someone asks you if you want to register. You say sure. They say great. Do you have your passport or certified birth certificate in your backpack? Nobody carries their birth certificate to class. Nobody, so that clipboard is now useless. The new instruction is, go down to the county courthouse and stand in line for 2 hours. So it passed the House 220 to 208. Now it's headed to the Senate. What's the outlook? It probably hits a brick wall. The Senate has the 60-vote filibuster. Democrats have already called this a poison pill. They see it as voter suppression, plain and simple. So it's not going to pass on its own? Almost zero chance. But that's probably not the strategy. The strategy is leverage. By attaching it to something else? The budget. We have must-pass spending bills coming up. If the House attaches the Save the V Act to a bill to fund the government, then the Senate has a terrible choice. Shut down the government or pass this law. A very high-stakes game of political chicken. It is, and it seems like one they're willing to play. It's just fascinating because when you strip it all away, you have this fundamental philosophical divide about what democracy means. It really is that deep. On one side, the integrity camp says the vote is sacred. One fraudulent vote dilutes everyone else's, so you have to verify, period. And on the other side, the access camp says the government's job isn't to create obstacle courses. If your system blocks 31,000 eligible citizens just to stop one error, your system has failed. And both sides are looking at the exact same country and seeing two completely different crises. The data supports the access argument. The disenfranchisement is real. The fraud is rare. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The disenfranchisement is real. The fraud is rare. But the fear of fraud is a powerful motivator, and that supports the integrity argument. I want to leave my viewers with one final thought that really stuck with me from the Brennan Center report. We talked about those 21 million people, the citizens without the right papers. These are people born here, raised here. They pay taxes here. They are, by every possible definition, American citizens. But they lack the one specific piece of paper on this bill's very short list. It's a test of your personal bureaucracy skills. Let that sink in. So before I put my wheels back in motion and drive to the next destination, I will leave you with a few questions. If we narrow the definition of how you prove you're a citizen, are we effectively redefining who gets to be a citizen at the ballot box? That's the profound danger here. Are we creating a two-tiered citizenship? Tier 1 for people with their documents perfectly in order, and Tier 2 for everybody else. If you are a citizen but you can't prove it to the standard of this new law, does the system start to treat you as if you're not? It's a really chilling thought, something to think about as we watch this play out in the Senate.
Thank you for locking back into Thesis of the World. Serious grown man in the studio, driving in my lane, giving you the thesis, not the trends, seeing the world through different prisms. If this helped you see this diaspora a little clearer, or made you pause and rethink, pass along my coordinates. And most important, smash like and subscribe. Don't exit without choosing a direction. It helps grow this platform. And the algorithm will respond in kind by pushing this to more like-minded viewers. Until we meet again, let the echoes of freedom break through the silence and the chaos, reminding who we are and that we will never surrender, even if we surrender to ourselves for a short period of time. I'll see you at the next stop, and I'm out.
Melody for the winds of justice's wishes. Through discord's haze, a melody